Hello, Lions Nation, and welcome to our Week 14 edition of Bleav in Lions, brought to you by FanDuel, alongside former Lions All-Pro safety Glover Quinn and the voice of the Lions, Dan Miller. I'm Trevor Thompson. Glad to have you along. I trust that everybody had a great Thanksgiving week, despite the fact that the Lions fell to the Packers. They are now in a fight for their playoff lives, as are the Dallas Cowboys, who provide the opposition on Thursday Night Football. But these are teams going in opposite directions right now. The Lions have lost 3 of their last 5, as the Dallas Cowboys have now won 3 straight, including wins over the Eagles and the Chiefs. They are second in the NFC East, the Lions third in the NFC North. This is going to be a huge tilt. We got Dan Miller here to set us all up for it. Before I turn it over to Glover, Dan, my question to you is, on the field, what are your top storylines coming into this one as we enter Thursday Night Football?
Well, I mean, we might find out later today, but they're taking this as far as they can with Amon-Ra to see if he can play, and we'll find out what ultimately they say. By the time some people are watching this, they may have already declared him out. I think they just want to see if he can possibly go. It's obviously an all-hands-on-deck situation. The situation with Kirby Joseph not having him has hurt this team in the secondary. He's not there, so that's part of it. But look, they just need to play better football. They just haven't done some of the things that we saw them do earlier this year. Some of that could be missing personnel, but guys, you look at it, they've got one takeaway in the last 4 games, and you have no points off turnovers in the last 7 games. That used to be their bread and butter. That's how they flipped games. They gave the ball to that offense. That offense cooked. All of a sudden, the other team's 2 scores down, and you change the game. So, listen, consistent drives on offense. Try to find a way to keep that thing going. Get back to the kind of balance that they had in the past and the explosiveness they had in the past, and find some way to get off the field on defense. That, you know, in the last week's game, 3 out of 4 drives in the first half, they gave up a score. First 2 drives of the second half, they gave up a score. It's tough to win like that, man. We're just not seeing the complementary football that we've seen from these guys over the last 2.5 years.
You know what? I feel like we're just missing some creativity, both offensively and defensively. I think the offense, it just looks so vanilla, and I think it's very difficult in the NFL to feel like you can just consistently put together long drives. We're not getting big play touchdowns. We're not getting, a lot of explosive plays. J-Mo provides those explosive plays, but he needs Amon-Ra St. Brown. He needs Sam Laporte, the 2 guys that we're missing. He needs those guys to control the interior and the underneath so that he can get over the top. We need those things. We're not getting that. It just seems like the run game is just hand the ball off, and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to make something happen. David Montgomery can make it doesn't seem like a lot of creativity in the run game and the blocking schemes. And then when you look defensively, I mean, it's just like. And maybe I'm just not looking at it and seeing the all 22, but it's just like Aiden just comes off the edge. Like, I mean, we're not seeing him being, I don't see it. Like, what are we scheming up or doing to get these guys free? Like, this is the NFL. These other teams are good, and you are a good team. So you know they're going to come with their best schemes, their best things to try to beat you guys. And like you say, we haven't had a turnover in I don't know how long. Kirby's been out. Terrion is out now, but he wasn't an interceptor type of guy, but he's out. Like, there's nobody really ball hawking or playmaking in the secondary. And so to think that you're just going to continue, we talked about this stretch that they had coming back with the team that they had on the schedule. To think that you're going to beat these teams week in and week out without turnovers. Special teams is almost out the game, and I mean, you might can get a punt return every now and then, but it's hard to go into a game to think you're going to win it on special teams. I mean, you can flip the field a little bit here and there, but we're not seeing the big punt returns like we used to see. We're not seeing the kickoff returns that we used to see. So we're seeing 70-yard field goals. That's what they're trying to do in the special teams game. And I just think it's very difficult. And now guys are getting hurt, and we all know how things go. When you're winning,
yeah, I know
when you're winning, and the injuries slow down.
Yeah, I know we're 12 games in, but I do wonder, look, so much has changed without Frank Ragnow, without Kevin Zeitler. I mean, it used to be, and I said this all the time, and I will still say it to this day. When that offensive line was one of the best in the NFL, which you can't make that claim anymore, that was the reason I felt like every time they walked on the field, they thought they were going to win. They thought whatever you throw at them, whatever kind of game it is, snow, rain, indoor, track meet, defensive battle, that offensive line is going to handle their business. Jared's going to be able to do what he does. The backs are going to do what they do. The receivers are going to do what they do. If the defense holds up, great. If it doesn't, let's go track meet. And I just feel like so much has changed without that. And I think the adapting to that has been slow. Now, that said, they're third in the league in scoring. But it just looked different this year. It hasn't been there necessarily when they needed it in terms of consistency. And I just think the other thing that you mentioned, the pass rush, the numbers just don't add up to the effectiveness. It's just we were looking at in the press room the other day. We were all looking at they're last in the league when it comes to time to pressure. And that's just asking a lot of the guys on the back end. And you're not impacting the quarterback enough. And I'm not a big pressures guy. I'm a big get the guy on the ground guy. I want to see them behind the down sticks, you know?
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they got a pressure on the fourth down play that Jordan Love threw off his back foot and completed to win the football game, but you didn't get him down.
Right.
So, credit Jordan Love, but it's pressures are one thing. Getting them down is another thing, and finishing the play. And that's what I'm looking for more of defensively. So I think you're just a little bit off in a number of areas. And when you're playing at the level that they're playing at against these elite teams, if you're a little bit off, they're going to find a way to beat you.
Right. And this is the thing. Everything goes together when you're out there playing football. And what I mean is you subliminally know or feel the game. So from a defensive back standpoint, you know when your D-line or your front seven is like they're getting pressure and they're getting the quarterback down. You know that. Right. So when you feel that, you're more aggressive on the back end because you know the quarterbacks don't have a lot of time. Yeah, there may be a couple plays but for the most part, the quarterbacks don't have time. So I'm programmed now to be more aggressive. When that's not happening, the DBs don't want to be aggressive because the quarterback is not getting down. The quarterback is not being pressured. So now I have to hold up longer, so I can't jump this first route that I saw because the quarterback's not going to be forced to throw it, and then it's going to turn into something else. And so that hurts us on the defensive end. But another thing about the offense with the O-line that you talk about, I was talking to somebody earlier, and they was talking about we was looking at backup quarterback situations, and I was like, guys, let's be clear about this, right? They don't ask the backups to do the things that they ask the starters to do. Okay, the same plays that they call with the starters, they don't necessarily call them with the backups. They kind of dumb things down, right? So sometimes from an offensive perspective, that's a good thing, right? You just kind of, hey, this is just what we're gonna do. So when you look at the O-line last year, when the O-line is here, there's a lot of different things that we can do in the run game, in the pass game, and we're running hook and ladders to Panay. Like there's a lot of different things because you trust that they can handle the blocking schemes. They can handle the adjustments from the D-line because you don't know what the D-line is going to do when you call the play. So you're trusting them to be able to figure all that out on the fly. When you don't have that trust because they're young guys or they're not as good, now I can't call certain schemes because we're not that good at that. And over the course of a season playing against top teams, it just becomes difficult.
And I wonder how hard it's been to adapt to that because the season has been so up and down. If you go back first 5 games, I think they're 4-1 going into Kansas City, if memory serves, and number 1 in the league in scoring. And then all of a sudden it got tougher and teams have film. They adapt. They see where you're not the same and they start to challenge you. And I just don't know if they have the answers right now, and it becomes more difficult, obviously, without Amon-Ra. Losing Sam Laporta was massive for this football team in terms of blocking and Jared Goff's, trust in him and the ability to go to him on those critical downs. So it changes who you are. So not only are you changing, okay, we got to adapt on the offensive line. Then you got to adapt with Sam, and then you're adapting with Amon-Ra possibly now not being in there. So it's been tough. There's still a good team, but the ability to steamroll teams just hasn't been there. And now, if you look at the schedule, it's been difficult to beat the good teams for them, and that sticks out. And that's something that they didn't necessarily have a problem with before. It's been tough to win in the division where you have good teams. They're sitting at 1-3 right now in the division, so that hurts them as well. So there's not much time to figure things out now, but they have to do it. And there's still a ton of talent on this team. But I do think, and Glover, you were this kind of guy. Man, they miss Kirby. It's just when we start talking about the lack of takeaways, there is something that you had that he's got, which is a sense of where that ball is going and an ability to get there with it. And I just look at some of the plays that they've fallen victim to over the past couple of weeks, and I say to myself, you know what? Jordan Love throwing off his back foot, lofting it up there. Credit to him. It gets where he wants it to go. And his guys win a lot of 50-50 balls. But if Kirby's out there, they're not winning all those 50-50 balls. And everybody's got injuries. I know that. But if you're asking me, hey, Dan, why are they not getting a lot of takeaways? I'd say, number one, they're not pressuring the quarterback enough. And number two, their absolute best guy at causing turnovers is not on the field, and that hurts.
Right. And another thing that, I don't know if we don't get credit for this on the stat sheet, but sometimes they don't even make certain throws because they know that the guy's back there. They don't even make the throw. So you don't even, they take away your opportunity to make a play, but they also take away their opportunity to make a play. So just being out there sometimes is a factor. And so, look at
the fourth down they threw to the left corner of the end zone for a touchdown in that game against Green Bay. And Branch almost got there. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking Kirby probably figures out a way to get over to that ball. And again, everybody's got injuries, and you can't – sometimes injuries are a reason, but everybody's got them. But there's certain guys that you're really going to miss, and right now they do. But the way it sounds with his knee, I don't know what the future for this year is going to be, or if he's got a chance to get back next week against the Rams or anything like that. It doesn't sound great, but you got to figure things out. And you got some tough tests coming up because this Dallas team is flying right now offensively.
Yeah.
Those two receivers are playing great. Their running back is playing great. And Dak is orchestrating the whole thing. And then next week, you're looking at Stafford, who, although they lost this past week, is probably the leading candidate for MVP right now. Playing great, terrific receivers, offense is flying. So, man, you got to figure some things out. And Shep this week talked about, some changes in personnel or schematics or whatever that is. There's not that much personnel that you can change around at this point in the season, and whether or not they can dial some things up in terms of maybe what you're talking about, Glover, with creativity, a blitz, something, whatever it is. I'm sure they're working on that now, and we're going to have to see how that looks coming up against Dallas on Thursday night.
I mean, and it's the same thing I was talking about with the O-line. It all plays the same. You don't feel confident calling certain pressures and blitzes and things because the guys on the back end are hurt. I don't have Kirby in the middle to direct traffic. I don't have Terrion. Like, I'm playing with, I'm playing with what I got. And so to try to protect those guys, it limits what I can do up front. And it's just tough. And when you don't have multiple guys that can just consistently go and win one-on-ones, because, when they're going to slide to Hutch or chip Hutch or make sure Hutch, like, somebody else has to come alive, and we haven't saw it consistently.
And that hasn't happened enough. Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of the things that I think is definitely hurt is just, finding that complement to Hutch. And look, Aleem has provided some bull rushes in there and done some things. They just got Davenport back. If he can be a factor over the final 5 weeks, that would be massive. But there just hasn't been enough of other guys that are winning. And I know Hutch would tell you he needs to win more. He needs to make more plays. Yeah, but certainly if an offensive line is saying, none of these other guys are really a factor right now, then that certainly allows them to put more focus on him, which makes his life, infinitely more difficult. But everybody's got to be better. Everybody from Hutch on down, everybody. And it's just because where you are now is not good enough, in particular with what you got coming up.
And Dan, to the point you made, the running out of time, there's not a lot of time left. The schedule is tough. And Dan Campbell said the margin for error is slim right now. FanDuel has them at minus 180 right now to even make the playoffs. So the odds makers are saying they're not going to get there with the time that's left. I don't know whether it's a schedule. I don't know whether it's guys coming back getting healthy. I don't know what exactly it's going to be that helps them turn this thing around. But they're losing the battle in the trenches, as you guys are pointing out on each side of the ball, losing the battle in the trenches each and every week. How do they turn that around with the time that's left, you guys?
Well, I mean, it's some of the things that we've been talking about, and it's tailoring the offense to what you've got to work with, and that may change even more if Amon-Ra isn't out there. And it's, defensively, like we talked about, finding a way to get some pressure. And the one thing, look, that's going to be tested is, and we've thrown this stat around a lot, this team hasn't lost 2 games in a row since October 30th, 2022. There's not a team in the league that can say that they've got that kind of streak going. It's in a crazy, crazy streak. But it's going to be tested now because you're looking at having to beat Dallas to avoid that. And, this is where Dan Campbell has been at his best traditionally, is when this team is down and figuring out a way. He's great at understanding where they are mentally and what they need to get ready for that next game, and where they are physically and what they need to get ready for that next game. Everybody in that building from top to bottom is being tested right now, and we're going to see where it goes. And if they pull through this thing, we're going to say great job, well done. And under some pretty difficult circumstances, if they don't, then I think there's tough questions that have to be asked after the season about some of these things. But we're not there yet. They still have a path. That path is not easy, but it just feels a little different because it's really the first time since 2022, when they were trying to fight their way in at the end, that they haven't been in control of their own destiny. They lost that last week against Green Bay. So you got to find some way now to just fight and get it done. And again, I still like this roster. There's still a ton of talent, even with the guys that we're talking about that aren't playing. You just have to figure out the best way to utilize them to get the best possible effort you can to win a game like this.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough.
GQ doesn't look convinced, man.
Right, because when I look at it and I think about it just from a defensive standpoint, when you lose Sam Laporta and you lose if Amon-Ra St. Brown can't go, okay?
Yeah.
I don't want to give up a game plan. But if it's me, I'm looking at this team and saying, okay, Jameson Williams is the only reliable or offensive receiver weapon that's been playing. I know we got Isaac Tesla who's going to have to get involved, right? But Jameson, he's a big play guy. His routes take time. That's Jared Goff's weakness because he's not a great drop back guy. He plays off the play action very well. So I'm just going to pressure and stop Jahmyr Gibbs and put pressure on Jared Goff and don't give him time to throw the deep ball to J-Mo. And Jared Goff does not
counter
like
that now. GQ, counter that. Like what do you do offensively if you're the Lions? You got to find quick hitters, quick slants, things like that. Just try to get the ball in his hands on the move, right?
You got to find ways to get the ball out of his hand quickly. But that's not Jameson Williams' game. You got to get Khalif Raymond involved. You got to get those guys that you
Bleav hurt too.
Where you got to think, when we played against Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes controlled the game by throwing 5-yard passes. He was just getting rid of the ball. They were just getting rid of the ball. Hand it off quickly. Throw a quick pass. Like, I don't even know if he had a lot of big plays down the field, but it was just like we couldn't catch up. We couldn't stop him because he was just sprinkled here, there, boom. Then he hit a big one. He just controlled the game. Like, we feel like we don't do that. It's just everything is slow and methodical. And when you lose Sam Laporta, you lose Amon-Ra St. Brown, you don't have anybody that's controlling your interior of the offensive field. Nobody's moving the sticks. So you're counting on a big play from Jahmyr Gibbs or a big play from Jameson Williams. That's all that you're counting on. And that's very difficult. especially if we put pressure, because Jared Goff doesn't like the pressure. He's uncomfortable when he's pressured. So the running game can't always keep him off balance because we're stopping it because we got 8 guys in the box, because we don't feel like you got time to throw it out to J-Mo. And he's the only guy that
yeah. Or in the world of complementary football, your defense has to find a way to get the ball, give your offense short field, something like that. You know what?
Happening.
It's good. I know it's not, but if they're look, not happening is why they're here now. If they're going to get out of this, it's got to happen. They got to get back to complementary football. You got to get back to scoring off turnovers. You got to get back to giving your offense the ball with short fields and things like that. Guys, it tracks. If you go back to the Kansas City game, that's when it started. Yeah. That's when the takeaways started to disappear. The points off takeaways started to disappear, and you started to see the season kind of just go back and forth, win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. And it's the things that they did to make them one of the best teams in the National Football League consistently through, 23, 24, and for 5 weeks this year just aren't happening right now. And whether that's personnel or injuries or whatever it is, it's kind of easy to track why they're not in the same place. And the only way out of it is to figure a way to get back there with the guys that you have. And that, yes, it's difficult, but this is the hand you've been dealt. This is what you're taking to the field on Thursday night against Dallas, and they got to figure out some way to get it done.
And that's a must win.
I mean, GQ, you've been in tough spots before. You've been in spots players don't just say, man, we can't do this. You just try to figure out a way to get it done with what you got.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it's like in the locker room, for the most part.
Yeah.
There's guys in that locker room that understand the deficiencies that they're dealing with, and they feel that way. There's guys. I wouldn't be surprised, from a secondary standpoint. I don't know Brian personally like that, but without having Kirby out there, without having Terry on, I mean, he's probably sitting there like, can anybody else make a play? Right? Seriously, he's probably feeling like, all right, there's nobody else really that can make a play. And then that puts a lot of pressure on him to where he don't make some of the plays that he should be making, right?
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff that happens. And so I'm looking at this right here and I'm saying, in my humble opinion, this right here is just a must-win game, and you got to figure out a way to win.
Oh, yeah.
This is a must-win. If you don't win this game right here, FanDuel,
if you don't win right here, you then have to run the table and hope you get enough help to get in. I mean, it's
and Stafford's going to be licking his chop next week to knock
for all the reasons we're talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to go win Thursday.
Yeah. And what you just said about guys wondering if somebody else can make a play is something Coach talked about yesterday, and exactly what you can't do. Right. Because you have to do your job.
Right.
If you try to do somebody else's job because you think they may not be able to, or that you can make a play by doing that, you're going to get beat. So it's like it can't feed on itself. It still has to come down to you doing exactly what you were doing when you were winning, and that's doing your job and trusting the other guy's going to do their job. And the one thing that I will say about this team that they've done a great job of, a ton of character guys on this team. I mean, Brian Branch is as tough mentally as you'll find, and Amik Robertson is as tough mentally as you'll find. And there's not guys in that locker room that are going to pack it in and say, you know what, we just got too much against this. They are meticulous when it comes to character. Look, you're right, Glover. I mean, people ask me all the time, what are the players like? I'm like, man, you got 69 guys in there. It's a cross section of life. Everybody's different. So you're going to have some people in there that maybe don't have the mental strength that other people do, but they do a pretty good job of finding those guys, and you're going to need every bit of it right now.
All of it.
Dan, what is the temperature inside the locker room right now?
I think they know what they're up against. Look, they've been in a good position enough over the last couple of years in 23 and 24 to understand what the other side looks like. They know they're not in control of this now. So, how they react to that is a completely different question. I can't answer that. We're going to all find out on Thursday night. But I think they completely understand who they are and what they have against them right now. I think Dan Campbell is really, really good at setting the tone for his team. I think it's one of his absolute strengths as a head coach, as a leader, and as a man, is that they all understand through him exactly what they have to do and how it's got to be done. Now, doing it is something different, but imparting that to them and getting everybody on the same page is, I think, been some of the secret sauce as to how they've been successful. So the temperature is, I think, exactly what he said. There's no panic, but there's a sense of urgency because they understand what those standings look like. He's not going over them day by day now, but you're a player. You know what it's like. You know these other teams have 9 wins. You know you've got 7. You know you've got to catch them. You know the division has gotten away from you now. So all you can do is win and then let everything else sort itself out. So you can't play the Rams on Thursday. You got to play Dallas on Thursday. And you can't worry about what Chicago is going to do this weekend against Green Bay or Green Bay is going to do against Chicago. You just have to handle Dallas, because if you don't, it doesn't matter what Green Bay and Chicago do. Right. It won't impact you at all because you'll have already dealt yourself a bad hand.
Well, the odds makers at FanDuel are slightly favoring the Lions on Thursday night. They're giving the Lions are giving 3 points in this one. The over/under is 54.5, and the way the Lions' offense has struggled the last couple of weeks, I don't know where that number is coming from. Obviously, Dallas's offense is cooking right now. Dak is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league, but you think the Lions are going to contribute offensively to get that number to 54.5. With the Lions' offense right now and Dan Campbell calling the plays, what have you seen different, Dan, and how do they sort of get that thing going again?
Well, obviously they were cooking in Washington, but that was a team that was really struggling. It's been inconsistent offensively, and that's been the difficult thing. It's just not stringing together the drives that they used to be able to string together. You know, they had obviously came back to win the Giants game. That was 3 drives basically put together by Jahmyr Gibbs that helped them do that. That was 3 Jahmyr Gibbs drives. So what's missing is the 7, 8, 9 play drives when you're forced to kind of move it down the field and be patient with it, that they haven't been able to do consistently. So I just think it's the balance of run and pass, which hasn't been there necessarily all that often this year. It's been, one or the other. So regardless of who's calling the plays, you got to execute them and you got to find some way to get out there and get it done. So it's to your point about the scoring in this game. I anticipate, guys, it's going to probably take 31 points for somebody to win this game. I mean, Dallas has horses, man. It's hard to envision anybody right now shutting them down, and a team that's struggling defensively might have even more trouble doing that. So, look, roll the ball out there and find out what you can do. And if you can shut them down, great. But in my mind, this has the makings of something of a shootout where you're going to have to find some way to consistently score the football in this game.
I agree. And I would say, you know what? We like Jahmyr as a running back. But Jahmyr, we need you to be a horse this whole game. We got David Montgomery. Maybe he got to get some carries at the running back, and Jahmyr, you got to play some slot. Like we got to do something. Get you the ball right now. Put both of them in the game, because
if you're running the ball, they don't have the ball. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Right. Like we got to figure something out. And I don't want to harp on the Dan Campbell play calling thing, but I've always said I feel like Dan brings so much more to the table just being the head coach. And just looking back at it, him taking over and calling the plays in that Washington game could be what the issue was. They could have used that game against a mediocre to lesser defense to give John Morton a chance to just be creative and have fun, because you probably could have just beat them anyway. Just let him do that. And if you can't do it in that game, then now, Dan, you got to take over. But by Dan calling the plays in that game, and it looked a certain way, now it's like, Dan, you got to finish calling the plays. And I feel like that's taken a lot away from the team, because I feel like Dan brings so much more to the team than just calling the plays. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but what I can't speak to is what's going on that we don't see.
Right.
And what for Dan to get to that point, considering the fact that he just hired John Morton and put all his faith in John Morton, and this isn't a statement about John Morton, it's a statement about Dan's actions. For him to get to that point tells me, because he's not a panic guy. We've not seen Dan Campbell be a panic guy, so he's not going to share with us what all those things are. But the only thing I'd say is it must have been to a point where he felt like that was his best, I won't say only, but best option to do that. So I don't disagree with you, though, because even in the booth, we've sat there a couple times, like the end of the half against the Giants when they didn't call the timeout and spiked it, and had 7 seconds left when they could have had 19 or 20 if they had just called their timeout. We're like, why didn't they do that? And you think later, was that Dan Campbell making a choice? Was that Dan Campbell thinking about the next play they were going to run on offense?
Right.
So, yeah, I do agree that it's a lot to put on a coach. And I don't think it's clearly, I don't think it's what he wants to do. I think it's what he feels he needs to do right now.
Right.
Well, guys, we got enough time for each of you guys to give us one more thought on what you're looking forward to in this Thursday night tilt between two teams battling for their playoff lives. Glover, you go first. We'll let Dan wrap it up after that.
Well, I just want to see if they're going to come out and fight. I mean, we know their back's up against the wall. We know they're shorthanded. They're playing against a powerhouse team right now that's rolling. And right now your character is going to be tested. Your will to win is going to be tested. And, we'll see how they come out, how they approach it. I've called them a mature football team, and Thursday night, their maturity is going to have to show up.
Yeah, I'm with GQ. The word that he used right off the bat was the word that came to mind when you asked the question. It's fight. Just fight, man. I know these guys. I know who they are. I know what their character is. And regardless of who's out there, and they may well be shorthanded significantly, just who's ever out there, just let's when that game ends, let's all just be able to say, you know what, that was the absolute best the Lions had on this night. And if you can say that, there's not much more that you can ask. If Dallas outplays them, Dallas outplays them. If they outplayed Dallas, great. But whatever it is, let's just get back to seeing their best football, whatever's available to them offensively, defensively, and go out that way, because I don't feel like the last several weeks we've necessarily seen that. Let's see that in this game when everything is on the line. We'll be saying the same thing next week because it's going to be on the line again.
Right.
But let's see it this week when everything is on the line in a primetime game against Dallas on what should be an electric night in Detroit.
It really should be. And let's not forget the Cowboys aren't going to forget what happened to them last year against the Lions at home.
No, and they need to win.
They're
fighting to get in the playoffs.
They've got a lot of motivation.
Because if they win, they move above the Lions.
So they've got a lot of motivation in this one. It's going to be
no doubt
a winner-take-all sort of affair. They're going to leave it all on the field. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be a lot of fun to listen to with Dan Miller on the call. Appreciate you guys tuning in to this edition of Bleav in Lions. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to share and enjoy. And we'll see you with our recap after the Lions and the Cowboys wrap things up on Thursday night. Enjoy, everybody. And thanks to Dan Miller for joining us today.